So my name is Bob Stewart. I'm the community evangelist at ActiveRain, and for the last 12 years, we've been figuring out how to get content to rank in the search engines. How many of you guys out there are trying to do this? In some form or fashion, you have a blog, you got a website you'd like to get to rank. Okay, so there's a few of you. So for the rest of you guys, you can take a nap, I guess. But you few that are doing it, hopefully we can teach you a thing or two today. There are two ways that you can get exposure inside of a search engine. I'm just going to use Google. We're talking about Google authorship and Google author authority today, but Google's the 800-pound gorilla in the search world. The two ways that you can get traffic or consumers to find you in the search engine is you can pay for it or you can work for it. Okay? How many of us would rather pay for it? Seriously, there's got to be some folks that would rather pay for it, right? I mean, Sam talked earlier about how many leads Trulia and Zillow are generating a year. Like, we're paying for it, right? There's a lot of folks out there where that's okay. But if you'd rather work for it, there's some things that I think you can do, at least as it relates to Google, to make sure that they really know who you are and what it is that you're an expert in. So have you guys seen this? Has everybody started to see this now where you see faces coming up in the search engine results? This is based on something called Google authorship. And Google authorship basically is Google saying, let me know what you're doing out there, what kind of content you're creating. So one of the first, if you want to have some takeaways from this, the very first thing you should do is if you have a website or a blog, you should absolutely get Google authorship set up for that website or blog. It's imperative today, and hopefully in the next 18 minutes I'll teach you why that's imperative. But the first reason is just your face in the search results. This is called the rich snippet, and Google hasn't promised that they're actually going to put our face in the search results if we set up Google authorship. They've said they do what Google kind of does, which is we don't really tell anybody anything. We just kind of put some loose guidelines out there, and we let everybody else figure it out. And so that's what a lot of my days spent doing, trying to figure this stuff out. In December, they had a massive reduction in the number of faces that they were actually showing in their search engine results, and a lot of agents got completely wiped out of it. Their websites got wiped out from having their face with this rich snippet display. And what ends up happening is when your face shows up in search engine results in a lower position, you actually get a higher amount of click-throughs than you would have had your face not shown up. Okay? So just right there's kind of some value in getting Google authorship set up. If you want to know how to do that, I'll give you just Google setting up Google authorship, right? It's going to be pretty simple. So that's authorship, right? It gets our face in there, and it's kind of this catalyst for what I believe is going to be this next kind of step in the evolution of being able to rank in Google. And Google hasn't actually officially named this thing author authority. The patent that they have on it actually calls it agent rank, but author authority seems to fit. Does everybody know who that guy is? I mean, he's one of the probably 10 most powerful men in the world, right? He's the CEO of Google. His name's Eric Schmidt. And in his recent book, he said that. And I'll let you guys read it, but essentially what it says is, if we can verify who you are, we're probably going to serve you up a little bit higher than somebody that we can't verify who they are. And in fact, if the consumer, the Google's consumer, right, the searcher, if they can see that the information that they're about to access has been verified and has a real person behind it, they're probably a little bit more likely to click through to it. So if they're a little bit more likely to click through to it, and Google wants to know who we are, it would make sense that they start to work this into the algorithm of how they rank content. So this is just a little history of what Google's been doing, right? And 12 years ago when we started doing this, it was keywords. And so you'd stuff the keywords in at the bottom and you'd put them in white text and you'd do all these things to try to manipulate the search engine. And so they moved on and they said, look, how about links? This is going to be a good way to determine, is a website worthy of being ranked? Do other people out there find it important and link back to it? So then it moved on, and domain authority was a big deal, and then social signals the last couple of years, right? If people like my stuff or they retweet it. The funny thing is Google can't actually see into Facebook, right? Twitter doesn't give Google broad access to their API to be able to really sort out these social signals in a big way. And so author authority, in my opinion, and I only stayed at a Holiday Inn Express last night. I don't actually consider myself an SEO expert, right? I would never call you up and say, hey, I can get you on the first page of Google and you're going to pay me $1,000 a month and I'm going to be the greatest thing ever for your business. This is stuff that we've learned over 12 years of doing this, and half of that time was spent in a brokerage in this market where we generated a lot of leads. Right? Those are the days before the Zillows and the Trulias. But the last half of that time has been spent helping agents understand how to create content that ranks in the search engines. So for me, author authority is Google's comprehensive understanding of the value you provide as an author on a certain subject. So we want to try to prove to Google that we're an expert in something. And I loved what Seth said earlier, where you guys, all of you guys have this repository of knowledge up in your head. And a lot of you guys, I would imagine, are starting to get this content out there somewhere on your website or in your blog. And the better job we can do of getting Google to understand that we're an expert in our subject matter, the better off we're going to be. And let me see if I can kind of bring this to life a little bit for you guys. So how do you build authority with the search engines? The first thing is you have to create valuable, unique, well-written content. And I could stand up here for hours and talk about blogging and the things you should blog about. And I guess the point here is you got to work for it, right? You can pay to get there, or you can work to get there. So creating valuable, unique, well-written content, this is there's a lot of stuff, right? You write about subdivisions and condo complexes, you can do market reports, and you can do frequently asked questions like Seth talked about earlier. There's all this stuff that you could be writing about. But I think it's important to understand that as Google starts to look at your body of content, and it used to be that if I put my post on ActiveRain because it had a high domain authority, it would rank. Or it used to be if, within one post, if I really nailed all of these certain SEO elements, then it would rank, right? I got a good keyword phrase, I had good density in there, I had good anchor text, and today they're starting to look at the entire body of content. And so there's some things in there that we need to consider, and one of them is depth matters. And I used to teach blogging, and I would say, you know what, if you can get it somewhere between 200 and 400 words, you can get that stuff to rank. And you can probably still, for some things, get it to rank today, but depth matters, right? And the subject matters that we would be covering, they tend to lend themselves to a lot, right? If I'm writing to inform you that I'm an expert, or even to inform Google that I'm an expert on a condo complex or a subdivision, depth matters, right? I could probably, in 800 words, tell you a lot of really great stuff. And when I got done, and I hit submit, I could probably come back a week later and go, man, there's 3 or 4 more paragraphs I could get in there. The opposite of that then would be thin content hurts you, and when you start to think of the concept of Google looking at everything that you're submitting online, then you realize that if I got 3 really great articles over here, and I got 10 really crappy ones over here, that's gonna hurt me, right? Google's looking at the collective of everything that I've created. So off-topic content may have an impact. I think it probably has a negative impact. They're looking at you, Google's looking at you and saying, what is this person an expert in? There's a couple people here in Seattle that do a really good job with this. Courtney Cooper's one, and she has a website called SeattleAfloat.com. And if you do anything in this market around Seattle houseboats, any kind of a query around that, she ranks on the first page. And in some cases, she has more than one result on the first page because she is completely on topic. She doesn't get off topic, she doesn't write about her dogs and her kids, and she's only writing about things that would apply to a houseboat owner, or a potential houseboat owner, or somebody interested in owning a houseboat. Which means you need to understand the focus of your blog. There's another guy, Ben Kakimoto, and he's, for years, all this gentleman has written about is condos in Seattle. And if you go and you do a search like condos for sale in Seattle, Sam, who was the first guy on stage here, I mean, that guy's everywhere. Right? He's really good at what he does, and I'll bet he busts his butt, right? He works really hard to get that search engine ranking, but Ben really focuses. He understands the focus of his blog is Seattle condos. He doesn't write on there about Bellevue condos or condos in Redmond. Like, he understands, and I think before Google was ever taking a collective look at the body of content, Ben was headed in the right direction because he was in a niche. Right? There's a lot of niches out there for you guys to be able to be in with the content that you create. And if you're already in a niche for your business, there's so many ideas of things that you could be writing about. So there's a couple of things that I've been testing, and I just believe. The concept of stacking content for more comprehensive pages. Does anybody out there do market reports as a part of their marketing strategy? I do a market report on my blog, or Okay, so, and I would imagine the way you do that is you take one market report about first quarter, Seattle homes, and you write it. And then, so you're gonna do second quarter Green Lake homes, and let's do Green Lakes. First quarter Green Lake homes, and you write it. Second quarter Green Lake homes, what's going on? Third quarter Green Lake homes, and you now have at the end of the year 4 different posts. I believe because Google's looking at that comprehensive body, right? They're looking at in-depth, they're looking for depth. I believe that taking that content and just stacking it on top of each other so that at the end of the year you end up with one piece of content, one page on the internet that has kind of a comprehensive view of what the market looked like over the last year. That's going to be a heck of a lot stronger than 4 different posts out there essentially cannibalizing themselves. Go back and update subpar content. How many of you guys that do create content on your website or your blog, sometimes you just mail it in a little bit, right? If you're doing that, I guarantee you've got content that if you were to go back and take a fresh look at it, you'd understand, I could probably update this a little bit. That's completely all right. And then, gosh, I would get rid of off-topic content. So that's a couple of ideas about having strong, quality, solid blog or even website content. Become a guest contributor on other sites. And it used to be that you would do this to get that link back, right? You would go to your lender and say, man, you guys have a really, really good website. I'd like to write a piece for you about the 5 steps to get your home ready to sell. And the people that understand SEO, they would do that to get that link back from the other agent or from the other website. Today, there's actually something to be said for Google looking out there and seeing that you're a contributor, right? It's not just those links, it's the fact that you're a contributor on some other site that's related to the topic about which you would wish to be an expert. Being cited in an article. Has anybody in this crowd ever been cited in any kind of an article, like a media article? Anybody? Yeah, there's a bunch of you guys, right? The media writes a story about homes, and there's probably a couple agents in every story that gets written around this market about real estate. There's a couple of you guys that get cited in those things. This is a real life link, right? Being cited in media is the media patting you on the back and going, hey, this guy's an expert. Right? He knows all about Seattle real estate. In fact, we're the Seattle Times and we quote him when we write articles about Seattle real estate. So being cited in an article is a great way to build author authority. Video focused on your area of expertise. The last 2 ladies on the stage, they nailed it, right? There's all these awesome things you could be doing that a lot of those things center around the idea that I'm an expert in my market. Set up Google Places. How many of you guys have Google Places set up for your business? Okay, so if I Google Seattle real estate agent, for instance, there's a couple of folks that show up for free because they've set their business up as being a real estate business in Seattle. Okay, you guys can all go do that here. The only thing that you have to have for this is a physical address. They're actually going to mail you a code that you have to go back and plug in order for them to verify that you actually are a Seattle real estate agent. Publish an ebook. If you have a library of blog content, it would be really easy to take it, put it all together, wrap it up, and publish an ebook. Like Rhonda Porter would be does everybody know who Rhonda Porter is? Like, she's one of my favorite mortgage bloggers, and like she has years and years of content. I have no question she has enough. She's probably done it for all I know, but I have no question she has enough content to publish an ebook about these things. See, what ends up happening here is we start to understand that Google's taking a look at me as the holistic view of who I am as an author and a contributor and a content creator. You start to understand that, man, if I try to be all these things, right? If I try to be the agent that wants to rank in Kirkland and Bellevue and Redmond and Seattle and Linwood and Tacoma, and I want to be everywhere, I mean, you have to be Sam DeBoer. Like, that guy's the only one that's doing that in this market right now, on the first page of the search engines. But a lot of us have an opportunity, like Courtney with Seattle Houseboats, or Ben with Seattle Condos. We have an opportunity to rank, to compete with the Zillows and the Trulias and the Realtor.coms, but we have to focus on something. Okay, so we've got all these things out here. We've got some really great blog posts, we're cited in an article, we've got some videos, right? We've got all of the other things maybe that I talked about. How do we tie it all together? How do we show Google that we're an expert in these things, and how do we tie it all together? Google Plus becomes your hub, right? Is anybody shocked that after Google launched Google Plus, and it was just a barren wasteland for most people? For most of us, I think if you guys go there, You don't get it, you don't have a lot of friends there, there's not, like, it's not Facebook, right? So is it any surprise that Google would find some way to make this thing relevant and to get people in some ways even force people into doing this, right? How many of you guys do not have a Google Plus account? Just raise your hand if you don't have a Google Plus. Okay, so if you just raise your hand, if you have a Gmail account or a YouTube account, you have a Google Plus account. You probably just don't know. Okay, Google set one up for you. They did it a year ago or something. They just said, well, all you guys, we own all you guys anyway. We're just going to do whatever the heck we want with you. So they set you up a Google Plus account, and one of the things they're doing is they're trying to understand who are the people out here creating all this content, right? The days of being able to put up a website and do a bunch of crazy keywords and do some links back to it, and you're selling Viagra and you're making a bunch of money like that, those are gone, right? We can't do that anymore. Google wants to understand who are the people creating this content, and they want to deliver, their consumer, the person they're trying to make happy is the guy that's clicking, right? We want to make sure, Google wants to make sure that that person's happy with the results they get. So a couple of things that you want to make sure you do on Google Plus, and these are all things you guys could literally go home and do tonight or tomorrow. Right? But don't do like Seth said, and you go, I know I should do that, but I just don't have time. Right? It's not that tough. A full and complete profile on Google Plus would be the first thing that I would suggest to you. This lady here, and I'm going to actually use her as an example in the next couple of slides. Her name's Anita Clark, and she's a real estate agent in Warner Robins, Georgia. She has one of the best stories. So inside of your Google Plus profile, there's a section that says About. That story is the very first thing that you're telling Google, like, who am I? What am I an expert in? What do I do? Right? If I was Courtney Cooper, I'd make sure a lot of that had to do with me being an expert in houseboats. I'd probably talk about some of the houseboats I'd sold, how many I'd sold. Right? I want to create this story for Google so that they understand who I am. If you know anything about SEO, this would be like the page title. Right? It's that first thing the search engine sees as me as an author, my story. The second thing then would be to connect all your profiles to Google+. Okay? If I have a profile on Zillow and Trulia, I want to connect it there. If I have a profile on Yelp and I've had some reviews on there, I want to connect it there. I was stalking Rhonda yesterday, and I Googled her because I wanted to see. So I looked at her Google+, right? And she's got a lot of stuff on there. And then I Googled her. And the first thing that I saw that wasn't there on her Google Plus was her Redfin profile. She has a profile on Redfin where she's got like 6 reviews. And they're all outstanding reviews. Right? That's something I'd want to show Google. I'd want to bring that over to my Google Plus profile and make sure they see that. You got to get all those things connected. Right? Google can look at all these things. I got 5 positive reviews on Yelp. I want to let them know where my Yelp profile is. I want to tie everything together for them so they understand who I am. Let Google know where you contribute content. So this is, I don't know if you can see that list on the side there. Those are all the places that Anita has contributed content. Some of you guys, it might be 1 or 2 places, right? It might be my website and my blog. But there's a lot of places you could potentially be contributing your content. Right? Again, I would Google myself. I did this with Rhonda. There was a couple of places out there where at some point in the last 5 or 6 or 8 years, if she's been blogging about mortgages for a long time, there was a couple places that I found in a search of her that she didn't have in there. Right? So let Google know all the places that you contribute, and this is all under the About section of your Google Plus profile. And then inside of that About section, there's a section for links. And after looking at a lot of agents doing this, and really even after looking at it and considering it myself, I think a lot of people don't know what this section even means. And so for me, what I would do is I would use this section to link to content that demonstrates me as an authority. So if I had that newspaper article where I got cited, in that links section, I'm going to link to that. If I have a blog post that I've written and it's gotten a lot of traffic to it, like the one Seth talked about earlier about ways to be a real estate agent, right? That doesn't directly apply to your business, but if I'm Seth, in the links section, I'm showing that post to Google, right? That's a post that a lot of people have found value in. So that links section, I'm using to link to areas that demonstrate my expertise, right? I've been linked to comments with like a lot of shares. If I put something out on Facebook and it got shared a bunch, even though Google can't see into Facebook's API, I'm going to let them see it, right? I'm going to show it to them in the links area. If I got posts that have a lot of comments or a lot of clicks, just a lot of traffic to them. These are the things that I'm going to link to. The last thing you want to do, and this kind of is like a no duh, right? If I'm going to take all the time to wrap Google around my business, to wrap them around my knowledge and let them know what I'm an expert in, then I probably need to share this content on Google+. Right? And the thing I would say about that is don't just share it there. I see a lot of agents who just go, they've got the little buttons on their website and they go, I just made a blog post, share, and then they're just off, right? Notice what Anita does. She puts a little bit of context around it. The search engine can get in and read it, right? But it never hurts to put a little bit of context around it because there are real people there, right? I mean, they have hundreds of millions of users on Google+. It's not really a ghost town. And the next thing I would say is maybe consider participating. The agents that I know that are really getting into this stuff and understand it and understand that Google rewards you for being there, that they're seeing business because of it. They're seeing increased search engine rankings because of it. So take a chance to get in there and participate on Google+. I'm not actually an authority, right? I just stayed at a Holiday Inn Express last night. Thank you, everybody. My name is Bob Stewart.
Do you want to be? I don't know.